Hey, welcome to another glass blowing demo. Today we're working on one of these little mushroom pendants. They kind of float in the middle of the glass, and I've been getting a lot of requests on how to make these little pendants. So let's get to melting some glass and I'll tell you exactly how I do it. We're just firing up the torch. I've got a clear rod. I think that's a 9mm rod. The couple colors on the workbench there. I've got Star White and Ketchup today. Star White will make the stem and the dots on the mushroom cap, and then Ketchup will be the mushroom cap itself, as well as the bail. So right now, I'm just heating up the end of that 9mm rod, and I'll push the end of the Star White into it very gently. I don't want this to mushroom out like a push mushroom. I just want to get the clear glass to kind of slump around the end of that rod. Now I'm going to let it chill a little bit. Pausing now gives it a chance to have the temperature introduce stress to the colored rod, and then you can wiggle it a little. As you can see, I'm just flexing it and it snaps away. This is the best way for me to get the exact amount of color I want on the end of that little piece. So now I've picked up that rod of ketchup. This is a cadmium color, so it is very sensitive to the flame. You want to introduce it far out in the flame and get it warm before you really want to work it. So in my left hand right now, I am rounding out the end of that piece. I heat it up until the spot where I pushed that white into the clear rounds perfectly, so I don't trap any bubbles under the mushroom cap when I add the colored dot we're about to do. So I am pretty careful not to heat up too much of the colored rod right now because I really want to leave a small dot. I want it to be perfectly centered, so I'm going to put the colored rod above the clear rod, and I'll use gravity to kind of land the mushroom cap right on top of the stem. Here we go. So I push it together, and then I'll tug just a little bit when I know it's attached far enough on. And there you can see it kind of tug right at the end there. Now I'll flame cut that away, and I often have to pick a little bit of extra glass away with a set of tweezers or something when I do this with the cadmium colors, just because they do need to be treated very carefully in the flame, so often I end up with a little extra glass. So here I am picking it away. Now I'll heat that up until I have a nice domed shape for the cap, and then we're going to pick up one of those pieces of Star White off the workbench and start putting the little spots on the mushroom cap. There you can kind of see the shape of the mushroom starting to come together. I'll adjust the flame so I have a nice pinpoint so I can be careful and not leave really big spots on that mushroom cap. That sharp flame's really nice. Very precise, easy to place the dots without putting them on top of each other or leaving too much glass behind. I just keep on dotting. I really try to keep this an even timing. Now I sped that up just to show me putting them all on real quick. And once we're done that, we'll go back to heating the whole mushroom cap up. Adjust that flame so that we can melt all those dots in. And now I'm looking for a nice domed shape where the edges aren't gonna create a crease as I add a layer of clear over it. I want a nice dome shape so that no bubbles get trapped on the mushroom cap as I seal it in. And there you can see the mushroom is starting to take shape. The dome shape on the top is really nice, even. Now we grab another rod of 9mm, and I'm going to heat the end of that until I have a nice large gather. Once I have that gather, I use gravity just like when I put the mushroom cap on and when I put the stem in, I'm always kind of putting my rods into a vertical orientation to use gravity to my advantage. There you can see the little mushroom right before I encase it. And that's the kind of shape you're looking for. It could even be a little bit more domed without a little bit of a bulge at the bottom, but this is ideal anyways. So I've not sped anything up in this video. I might have clipped a couple shots down a little bit, but I'm trying to show everybody how I do things in real time. So getting this gather together does take a little bit of effort. Balancing that gather on the end of the rod can be a little difficult. If that's tough for you, you could use a larger rod to do this part, and it would help mitigate that problem. But there you see I'm using gravity to let that clear glass push over. You can see the clears actually magnifying those mushroom spots right now. I got that on both angles from each camera. You can kind of see how I push it all together. And now I'm going to flame cut that rod away. And I'll heat that up until I am left with a nice kind of egg shape with the mushroom inside. And I'll use gravity once again to kind of let the extra clear move away from the center of the mushroom. I really want to keep clear away from condensing right at the edge of the mushroom cap, so I try to use heat to move the clear glass away from that spot. But you do have to be careful. If you do this a little too much and get it a little too hot, you can really deform the edge of the mushroom cap. But if you do it just right, you can kind of manipulate the shape of the mushroom's cap at the edge and at the tip of the mushroom cap by using gravity and kind of tugging and pushing and pulling. And there we have it. You can see that mushroom forming inside. Still need to refine that kind of egg or teardrop shape that I go for my pendants, but this is the part where it's pretty much done. You've done your job right. You haven't trapped any bubbles on the edges of the mushroom stem or the edge of the mushroom cap. There you can see just using gravity again. And I'll pick up some tweezers and pull away a little excess glass too. And as you pull away any excess glass from the top of that little gather, it'll start to elongate the form of the egg shape that we're going for. And then you just take away as much glass as you need to until you have the right shape, and then you can add the rod of color for the bail that'll go on the top there. So there, I've got the tweezers now, and I'll just pick it away slowly, and I do use that to kind of stretch the whole shape a little bit. That can often add a little bit of a point to the mushroom cap. If you're going for something that's got like a bit more of a dome cap, you might not want to heat up as much of the gather before you stretch it, and just heat right on the surface and pick clear glass away without deforming the whole mushroom. The amount of heat you put in there really can change how you change the shape of the mushroom. So there I am, taking away a little scrap glass away from that rod of ketchup again, just getting those two edges, or the ends of those two pieces nice and red hot, and I'll join them in the flame, but I'll keep the ketchup rod kind of at the edge of the flame. There, I stick them together, and I keep rolling in the flame so that melts in really nicely, very quickly. Make sure it's kind of on there straight. Get out of the flame so you can have a good look at it. And then I go to heating the bottom so that I can take that clear rod away, so that I can make the rest of that teardrop shape, and then we'll punty up to the bottom of that so I can form the bail. we are stretching that glass away. There's always a little bit extra glass left on the bottom, so once again we'll pick up a rod or a set of tweezers and pick some of that glass away. Once again, this is another point where if you heat up too much of the pendant and start pulling glass away, you can stretch the mushroom, and if the mushroom's already the right shape, you really don't want to do that. So right here I'm going to use the paddle to actually bring the mushroom back in a little bit. I'm going to flatten it a little bit. So this gives me a chance to widen the mushroom cap itself a little bit, and then we'll pick some clear glass away from the bottom after we've done that step. Picking the clear glass away at the end is really important, because sometimes it really can be used as a bit of a tool. Having a larger gather can help you push on a larger area of the mushroom inside the clear. But then once you want that finished shape, you do end up taking some of that glass away. Depending on how big the pendant you want, you can leave it larger, but I like to remove some glass and get the mushroom into a very nice place in the middle of the clear gather. So there I've got another rod of 9mm, and I'm going to punty up to the bottom of that. It's a nice cold seal, so it's easy to crack away later. And then back into the flame on that rod of ketchup. I think I heat up the top of the mushroom a little bit just to stretch out the top of that teardrop shape to begin with, and then I go straight in on that piece of ketchup, and I'll stretch it just a little bit so that I can make a bail. See, you can see it's a little thinner now, and I'll flame cut that away. And then I use gravity to let that tail kind of droop in one direction, and then I'll dip that in and out of the flame so that I can heat the whole thing up. So there we go, heating the connection point. And then I'll let gravity start the bend, and then I grab it with the tweezers and push it the rest of the way. And here we go, dipping in and out of the flame. I'm trying to get a really even heat base in there so that I can make that nice bend like that. If you don't heat everything up really evenly, that can happen in a very uneven, kind of disorganized way, and the bend doesn't go nearly as nicely, and glass condenses in funny ways. But I just use the tweezers to push that connection point together in the flame when things are almost red hot, and then use my reamer right here to kind of straighten that out and open up the hole so it's nice and round, so there's no acute angles on the inside of that connection point. And I'll get that reamer in there and just make sure everything's straight. It's a little offset, so I push the ring into center. And at this point, I'm going to go in there again and just stretch a little bit to pull that connection point out and give it a nice hourglass kind of shape from where the mushroom pendant or the egg shape meets the loop on the top. And there you can see that mushroom's done. Now I'm going to grab a set of tweezers, grab the bail, knock it off of there, and polish up my punny mark. So I've made lots of these mushrooms. They definitely get better over time. Hope you guys learned something today. These little mushroom pendants where the mushroom looks like it's floating in the clear always get a lot of questions from people, like really curious how you get that mushroom in there. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one.